Okay, so just to do a quick overview, how we had this set up originally is we were set up for a February in-person competition in State College. We're gonna talk about some scenarios of options, but I'm thinking in person in February is just not going to be a viable option that we can consider. I don't want to not consider going in person, but I just feel like it's where we're at right now and where the schools are at. Travel's restricted for a lot of the schools. I don't know if, overnight stays are even going to be a possibility. And right now, with the restrictions on the rooms, you can only have so many people in rooms at one time. It was 25 people. They have now changed the regulation to a different number. It's like 20% if you can fit this many people in a room, and 15% if you can fit this many people in a room. So the numbers keep changing. So it makes it really hard for us to lock in and start planning it in person. The next news that we received last week, which I did send out to everybody, is that Nationals is not going to have a ProStart competition. They're not doing a national invitational next year because of the same reasons. Every state is having problems. Like California is not back in. They're not sure if they could do an equitable and a safe competition with the amount of people that come into the space. So they thought the best way that they could be using those funds was to reallocate the funds back to the states to help the schools during this year with other things. It's to be determined. This is, it's all work in progress. They're going to be letting us know what the funds are going to look like and how they would like us to allot them to the schools for you guys, which I think is great. They're very sad to not have NIPSI, but a lot of the sponsors just weren't going to be there either because they don't have the money to support the event this year too. So, but I think the state competition for us is important to keep going because I think it's important for the students to be working outside of their classroom assignments, connecting with each other and connecting with our industry. And I still want to keep that connection going. I'm looking to confirm the scholarships that would be available for winning teams. I have confirmed already that Sullivan will be still awarding scholarships even if it is virtual. So I'm going to keep working on that, and I'm going to work on the sponsors who had given us money normally for the competition to see if I can turn them into scholarships for winning teams. So to help, maybe winning amounts for the school that wins. I don't know. I'd have to work through that. I did talk with IUP, and they are still up for doing some type of a boot camp, but they don't think January. They can't bring anybody on campus, so it would have to be a virtual boot camp. We probably would do 2 sessions. One session would be like the setup with Kapusta, going through how to set up your table and how to organize yourself at a competition, and then the recipe costing area. Right now, I don't have a career and college fair plan to go in conjunction with the competition. I am looking to have something, but it would be outside of the competition. We would just be doing this, at a time to be determined with. I'm not sure the technology I would need, so that's why I don't have it planned right now. Any questions about what I've said right now? Okay. And, feel free to chime in or use the chat feature. My thoughts for the management competition is whether we do anything in person or if we do an in-person with your school kitchen, the management competition is going to be virtual either way, because this is the easiest one to convert into a virtual format. In addition, this is how business is running right now. We're all doing Zoom meetings. We're all presenting concepts and presenting proposals this way to each other. So I think this would be a great way for them to still collaborate, still work on a project of coming up with a concept and working through the recipe costing, working through the layout, but then presenting it as a team to a group of judges. We wouldn't be doing the trade show format because that's just too complicated to even do in person. So it would just be them presenting a full concept with all the all the components as a team to the judge, to a group of judges on a Zoom call. It would be live. So we would just schedule a time for that to happen. One thing that came up yesterday that we can work through, it could be that the students all present live on one Zoom call in your classroom, or it could be that they sign in, and we can determine how the format of that works, but I'm open to conversations on that. And then we would still have that interaction with the judges where they'd be asking questions about the concepts, about the marketing, and they'd need to respond back as a group with responses of, like they're presenting to a panel of, possible investors. Still have the critical thinking. So it'd be exactly the same competition, but just remote, like up on a computer. And working with the kids, having a time period to respond back and forth. Any questions on that right now?
Sounds good.
So it'd be, creating a digital package like they've always done. The posters, rather than being on a poster board, they'd be digital posters. So it'd be 2 digital posters that would be up on a screen like this while they're presenting. They would be required to submit their proposals and their posters ahead of time so that the judges would have time to review, just as we've always done. And then we would just set up a time for them. We would set up a time for like a competition time, and then the students would compete at that time. In a nutshell, I think this one's the easiest one to convert into a virtual format. And with whatever we decide to do, it helps to keep the numbers down. I would hope that the students would still want to be part of it. And I think these would be a good project for remote projects if they are working remotely. So, I don't know if anybody has any questions on this, or if you just want me to move on to the culinary piece. Move on? Okay, I'll move on. I have 3 scenarios in my head about the culinary competition. This first one is not where I'm leaning towards. I'm just putting all 3 options out for us to talk about. But obviously the first one is the in-person competition at the Penn Stater. We wouldn't have to have it in February because there is no national competition, so we're not pushed up to try to have something done by a certain time period. But based on the conversations I've had with teachers yesterday and based on some conversations I've had with you all prior to this, there are a lot of restrictions that are being put on your programs and put on traveling and put on your chances to be able to fundraise even for these, for traveling to this event. So I feel like this is a long shot for us to even consider. And I'm leaning towards not doing it, but I want to get everybody's intake once I go through these 3 scenarios, what they think would work the best. The one that I'm leaning towards the most is the virtual in-person competition where the students would be cooking in your school kitchen. We would set it up just like it was the competition, and they would simulate that, and there would be a video submission of the cooking and photos of the finished products. The last piece is if come February and everything starts to open up and we don't have a date, we have no way to get into a big facility to have a huge competition, we could do regional competitions where you bring 3-4 teams in regionally and have them compete on the floor to keep the numbers down. And those are the 3 options that I feel are what we can do for this competition. I know from talking with FCCLA and with Skills, all their regional competitions are going to be virtual, and FCCLA is going to be virtual for their state competition. I'm not sure if Skills has released what they're doing. I know they were holding out hope that they could hold something in April in person. So, they already have something booked at Hershey. So, any thoughts on what I'm throwing out there? Do you think the virtual in person in your school kitchen would work, or?
I definitely think the virtual in person would work. I think it takes a lot of the pressure off them because they're comfortable with where they're at. They're not having spectators. So I think it's not going to be perfect however we do it, but I think that would be the most viable option at this point.
Yeah, it's obviously not going to be like the pressure is not going to be the same just because it's going to, it's going to be different. But here, I'll go through, I'll sort of go through my thoughts on the virtual in person, what I'm thinking we can do. And this is, it's up for discussion, but I'd like to probably in the next 2 weeks get us determine what we're going to do so we can get rules out and get everybody working towards something. My thoughts are for the cooking portion, that 60-minute portion. I originally had thought, maybe someone from the PRLA could come into your kitchen, or an individual in your school could come and video the 60 minutes of cooking. there would be a time period allotted for each team to compete. Like Tuesday, you have to submit your video by 2 p.m. So you have all that time to record and get your video in. Again, it'd be 2 to 4 members with an optional alternate. And I would have you set up the tables the same way we would on a competition floor. So it'd be simulating the competition in your kitchen as best as you can. And depending on restrictions, it'd be great if we could get some judges to come on site, maybe 1 or 2 to do plate appearance and taste. I know yesterday, a lot of the teachers said that right now visitors are not allowed into their schools. So with all the shaking of heads, I don't know if that'll be an option, but we're just putting it out there. So again, it'd be the same digital packet that they've always put together, but it'd be digital rather than printing them out. You'd send this ahead of time, ahead of time for them to look, probably a few days beforehand so that the judges can look at it. And then on the competition day, the students would submit their product check-in report with their cooler layouts and temperatures. So they pretty much would be doing their own product check-in, but recording it and submitting to the judges how things temped out or how they were going to lay it out in their coolers. So competition would come, they would submit, again, their check-in coolers and temperatures. And the second bullet point, I think I do want to do this along with the video, which would be them detailing their production timeline. So saying Johnny at 2:15 is going to be starting the chicken, and Rosie's going to be doing this. It is sort of like that. What was their work plan? Submitting their work plan to the judges, because it's going to be hard when you're videoing to observe all that's going on, at the stations, because you're going to be sort of focused on whatever the camera's on. So I thought the timeline would be a great way just to detail how each member is contributing and how they're participating towards the cooking of the meal, and how just so it's easier to watch. And submitting a sanitation plan, so how the team plans to keep their spaces clean and what how they're planning to keep things sanitized. And then, since with all the shaking of the heads, and it was a suggestion from one of the educators prior, to maybe have the students taste their own meals and submit, talk about what they're tasting or how they think it tastes. Like, it'd be a good way for them to, see if they see that it needs more salt or if it doesn't look the way they're looking. But we would want a finished product, so the appearance, like pictures of the ones that they think are the finished product, the appearance ones. This would be in person. I think it's kind of a moot point. I don't think that this is going to be the most viable way for us to go. If we did go in person, I would really limit teams to just a few in the room with judges, limited, no spectators, moving judges that are tasting an appearance out so they're not on the competition floor. But I just don't think this is going to be a viable option for us to even move down. Feedback sessions, I think for management, there's going to be immediate feedback just like there always was, because they're going to be on a live call and can talk back and forth. For culinary, I think what I would like to do is schedule, after the judges have had a time to review and watch the videos, schedule a time to get back with the teams and have a feedback session with the teams about what they saw and what their thoughts were on their recipes. So for the competition day, what you guys would need would be butane burners, not having electric, them using electric, no running waters, just simulating the competition floor. If you don't have butane burners, we have plenty in our office that I could get them out to you with fuel, for them to practice and for them to use during the competition. But we would try to simulate this as best we can. And, possibly the person that is videoing it can sign off on that these things happened, like that they observed that this was happening during during their filming process. I mean, obviously the positives, they don't have to travel. We're keeping people safe, but we're still allowing the students to get involved with the competition and be able to work and collaborate together and have access to the scholarships and prizes. We would want to do some kind of unique award ceremony. We're trying to determine how we would do that. Maybe depending on where we're at, we could come out to the school and surprise the teams that won, sort of like Publishers Clearinghouse or something, or have your principal come down and surprise the teams that they've won. Some of the negatives are going to be, students might not want to get involved if it's not in person. Everybody may be overwhelmed with all the circumstances, and sometimes it's hard to get them to engage remotely. So, but I think there's more positives than there are negatives in these situations. So that's my presentation, the long and the short of it. I guess I'm open for some constructive conversations and criticisms or thoughts. One thing that did come up yesterday was the videoing of the cooking. There was a concern that if there's a competition time set up and all of a sudden your team members go into red and you're not allowed to have them in the school or allowed to compete, what do we do? And I don't have a good answer other than we would work through it so that they could compete, because I think, we have the capabilities and a little bit of time to work through it, but I'm an optimist and I don't think we're going to see that. So I'm thinking positive of everything. So I don't know, would your students be interested, you think, still with competing with these scenarios and with
Hope, in regard to what you were just saying, I think it would be great if the scope of the competition were handed out to us really early, just in case we were prepared early. We may even be able to get it filmed and everything, like, I don't know, in the next 2 months when we are all still together, just in case the worst case scenario happens. So
that's, yeah, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't, that is actually what was talked about. That, yeah, possibly getting it done sooner than later, because who knows what'll happen come March.
Mhm.
And that's why we're talking now and trying to get this. There would be obviously, and I didn't talk about this yesterday, but obviously there's no cost to compete. This is all, everything, there's no reason to do that. But that's why we're trying to work through the scope and work through the thoughts of contingency plans and what makes the most sense and how quick do we do this.
Cool.
Any other thoughts? I mean, for the management one, I think, even if the kids they could be working remotely together and collaborating, even if they're not in the classroom, that piece. But yeah, with the culinary, you have to be practicing. And we wouldn't institute either, I know is in the rules about reusing menus and reusing recipes. I mean, for 2022, you could reuse every menu and every recipe that you want to. I mean, this year's a fun year. We're gonna try and make this, work so the students keep involved and we keep the interaction with industry going. Because I want the students to understand too that industries, they're there, they're still excited about them, and there's jobs. I mean, we keep hearing from our members that they're looking for people. They're looking for people to work because a lot of people aren't coming back or have maybe moved on to something else. But they're looking for talent too. Any thoughts, Tim? You're very quiet. I'm calling on you.
Yeah. One thing that, I talked about with our administrator and our sending school superintendents, they don't want anybody in the school, but one thing they did suggest, let me rephrase that. They don't want anybody in the school during the time the students are here. They suggested if we went virtual, doing it after school hours, and that way they would consider, assuming we're here, of course, letting a judge, depending on how we all decided to do this, but that way they felt comfortable letting the judge come in after normal school hours if we did it after normal school hours. Okay. So I put that out there as an option that came from, my superintendents, sending school superintendents and my administrators. That was something they had sort of suggested that they could potentially work with.
So you can go into your classroom after the school lets out?
Yeah, they're saying, yeah. I mean, they want us out of here by a certain time, but they're saying, they want to work with us any way we can to engage the students. So
Oh, good. Okay. Because I know, I don't know if John's still on. Oh, he might be off. Jeff Tech, I know there's like a cutoff and they're like, you have to leave. Like, they're like, you have to leave the school at a certain time. So that's something we can float to everybody and see if, you know, if they can talk with their administration, if that would work. And talk about it. What are any other thoughts about? I think we're all on the same side of, we're all on the same page of it's a virtual in-person in the schools is going to be the best.
yeah,
I think that's the best option for everybody to be able to participate, because I know some schools are allowed to travel and some are back full time, but you know, that could change too. And I think that's probably our best option. Okay. Well, the only other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, which is not ProStart, not competition related, was just to talk to you a little bit about that grant paperwork I put out to you guys, the application that I sent out about a week and a half ago. If anybody has any questions with that, just let me know. The intent of the paperwork is I put aside money from the grant money that I get from the national organization for you guys. So it's for you to tell me how you want to use it and send me an application, and then I will work on seeing how many people ask, you know, for funds, and then distribute as much as we can out to you guys to help with anything, with textbooks, with if you want to use them for scholarships at the end of the year with your students, if you want to buy a new blender for your classroom, I don't know, if you want to buy, you know, things for the students to be using when they might go remote. I mean, so please take advantage of it and get me the paperwork in. I mean, the money is sitting there and I don't want it to not be used this year. So I don't want anybody to feel like there's a barrier. I'm not asking for a ton of information, just what do you want to use it for, and then send it back to me. So if anybody has questions when you're looking to do that, let me know. I mean, if you don't get it to me by the end of the month, it's not the end of the world, but you know, I just wanted to get you guys the money earlier than later. Sorry, there's a motorcycle out front of the office making a lot of noise. Earlier than later, so you can use it, you know, with the students. Virtual learning experiences, I'm going to be putting out something to our members again to try to get some snippets, guest speakers, you know, trying to find some live demos for you guys to be able to bring into your classroom. But if you have ideas or things that you're really looking for that you think would be helpful for the students to hear from the industry, send me that information, because it's easier for me to say to them, I want you to do this, record it and send it to me, than to leave it up to them, because then it goes into an abyss and they forget that I need something. So if I could, you know, if you have something you specifically would like to see or you think would be great for the students to hear about, let me know. And basically, I just wanted to check in and see how everybody's doing. How's everybody surviving? I hope good.
surviving.
Surviving. Yeah. It's been challenging. I know. It's been very challenging, to say the least. I think I was talking with my husband. I'm like, and I know, Tim, you can relate. I'm like, I just want to go. I want to go places. I want to visit stuff.
Right?
I want to do things. It's like, I feel like I'm just standing still in the same place, looking at the same stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of books, that's for sure. Well, if there's anything you guys need, let me know. I mean, if you guys are up for it, I'm up for this virtual competition and starting to get the rules together and get everything out to you, because I really want to keep the kids excited and having fun as much as they can in 2020 and 2021. So, any other questions or thoughts? Well, if not, I'm gonna just I'll send out notes and I'll send this out, and I might even just do a quick little survey just to say who's interested in this level and this level, so that I can gauge how many good judges to get and how to move forward. My last question would be timing. So are you thinking it'd be better to get this done by January or wait it out into the spring? Like, I just trying to I don't want to push everybody along too quick. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we could have like a target date of where we're looking to have the competition, like January, February, and then if things fall apart, we can always move it further. I don't know. I don't know if you want to think about it and give me your ideas. You can send me an email afterwards.
My thought about it, my thoughts about that is if we know any dates for the Skills USA and FCCLA, so they're not all running together, same dates.
True. That's a good idea. Yeah, I'll look at that. Have they changed them? I mean, are they just keeping them the same, but just making them virtual on those days?
Yeah,
You
we're
know?
waiting to find out from our skills advisor right now, trying to wait for the dates. I didn't get anything yet from them.
Okay. I'll reach out to Nadine and the skills coordinator and see if she can send me some schedules when she has them so that we can schedule around that.
Okay.
Yeah, that way you're not overbooked, especially if someone's competing with that and that at the same time. Do you think your students will want to do this? Still compete?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. Because I'm thinking too, I'm hoping, my hopes are May, we're going to be allowed to do stuff and people are going to get together and I can bring all the winning, bring all the teams together and bring them to a big event that we have and just celebrate, what they did so that we can have some fun with it.
That sounds great. I'm in.
All right. I'm in. Let's throw all our positive thoughts towards that. All right, guys. Thanks so much for getting on the call. I appreciate it. It's great seeing your faces.
You hope. Thank you.
I see.
You're welcome.
Great seeing
Thanks,
everybody.
Hope.
Talk to y'all
Bye.
soon. Bye.